Randy is our intern this year and next year, and we are so delighted to have him. What a difference he's already made. He's going to come share with you a reading and then some silent, a little bit of silence, and then a sermon about trees.
Good morning.
Good morning.
That was really lame, people. You're gonna find I'm gonna work you. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's better. There's a song that's sung by the trees. You can hear it just under the wind. It sounds like the feeling you get when you see a baby's first smile. And its sound resonates through your soul. There's a song that's sung by the trees. You can hear them in close harmony with the birds who sing in their branches. And it sounds like the sunset listening through their leaves. There's a song that's sung by the trees. You can hear it in the silence of the night sky and in the heat of a sun-drenched day. And it sounds like love. A moment of silence. One of the things that people have been telling me since I've been here is we want to get to know you better. We want to know more things about you. Well, be careful what you ask for because you're about to get it today. I'm going to tell you a secret about myself. One that I know there are a lot of people may not believe just in our initial interactions, but I think it's important. Despite what you might outwardly see, I am a very shy person. I am shy to the extreme. If I have a choice of going to a gathering with everyone I love, in the most beautiful setting in the world with the finest food and the most amazing music, or sitting at home with the dog, watching Aerial America for the 47th time on the Smithsonian Channel, I will choose home every time, unless I force myself, which I generally have to do in those situations. And while there are people who I am very close to, who I will share my space with, being alone is my preferred space. As a child, when I was put into new situations, I would not talk. Or if I did, I would babble on, not knowing what to say, until I retreated back into my shell and blended into the background. So it should not be surprising to learn then, when I was young, on hot summer days in the Midwest, my mother, like all mothers in the 60s, would look at me reading my book or playing with my toys and tell me to go outside and don't come back until dinner time. Often she would send me out with a brown paper bag with a sandwich or some chips, knowing I would find a garden hose somewhere to get a drink of water out of, and push me out the door. My friend David Green was around. We might get together and play for a bit, and inevitably would try to sneak back into one of the other's air-conditioned houses, only to be found out and thrown out by a respective mother. Then one of us would have an appointment or something, we'd separate, and I would retreat to the one place I felt most at home, most special, and most comfortable, in a tree. Whether it was the maple tree behind my garage at my house or the hackberry tree at the dead ends of my street, or less often one of the big spruce trees in the traffic island in the neighborhood next door, I would climb that tree and spend what seemed like hours. I would put my lunch bag and my teeth as I climbed up to my favorite spot, that one that fit me just right. And I would park myself and I would talk to the trees. And here's the really fascinating part. They would talk right back. Now, you should know that when I was in grade school, one of the things that was always on my report cards, especially when I was little, was the phrase, Randy certainly has a vivid imagination. And that continues through to today. And so thinking back to my conversations with the trees, I chalked it up to my vivid imagination. After all, trees don't talk. I mean, even my most trusted philosopher, Dr. Seuss, says that right there in the book, The Lorax, the trees have no voices. It's not like the Ents in the Lord of the Rings movies. They don't just pull up roots and wander about and talk, do they? I mean, trees are as different as humans as you could get, aren't they? In the foreword to a book called The Hidden Life of Trees, written by German forester and philosopher Peter Wohlleben, the Australian conservationist Tim Flannery writes, "But the most astonishing thing about trees is how social they are. The trees in a forest care for each other, sometimes even going so far as to nourish the stump of a felled tree for centuries after it was cut down, by feeding it sugars and other nutrients, so keeping it alive. Only some stumps are thus nourished. Perhaps they are the parents of trees that make up the forest today. A tree's most important means of staying connected to other trees is a wood-wide web of soil fungi that connects vegetation in an intimate network that allows the sharing of an enormous amount of information and goods." And by the way, I just finished another book this past week called In Search of the Mother Tree, written by a Canadian forester. And she's the one who actually developed the terminology, the wood wide web. And I'll get her name for you afterwards. Trees need each other. They're a community. They care for each other. Some more than others, but they care for each other. And on top of that, they communicate. They talk to each other through electrical impulses. They are known to warn each other of danger from animals or insects through scent, and they attract bees and light through their bright colored blooms. So spring in Georgia is not just about our visual pleasure. It's the trees talking to each other and inviting guests to visit them. But that's just nature, right? I mean, okay, trees communicate and share and help each other and even keep stumps alive for hundreds of years after they've been cut down. Surely they can't talk to me. I mean, they don't actually talk, right? Further along in his book, Wohlleben provides some insight into that as well. He cites research done by Dr. Monica Gagliano from the University of Western Australia, who, along with her colleagues, went into the forest and listened and found that there was a sound coming from the root systems of trees, specifically at a frequency of 220 hertz. You can tell I totally am geeking out about this. This new book that I just finished was amazing. Anyway, they found in the lab that when they mimicked this 220 hertz crackling sound observed in the forest, seedlings in the lab oriented their roots in that direction. They wanted to move towards the sound, toward their community. The research is still in its infancy, but trees do also communicate by sound. Trees and forests are also known to put out a specific pheromone that calms humans. Science, they've captured it, they've measured it, it exists. When humans walk into the forest, the pheromone interacts with humans and the trees calm them. They've shown studies where people's blood pressure drops, their breathing rate drops, and they just feel better. The trees relax you, and the trees help to quiet our busy human minds. And despite our need to cut them for wood for our homes and paper towels and toilet tissues, they still welcome us into their world and say, come on, be quiet with us, be part of our community. Science tells us they communicate. Science tells us they communicate with us humans specifically. But can humans actually speak with the trees? Is that possible? Or am I mad as a hatter? So, I warned you the last time I'm going to be interactive with you. So here we're going to do a quick non-scientific experiment. I'm going to ask you as you're comfortable to close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And I ask you to think about someone who is dear to you. They can still be present or with us or have passed on, but I want you to think about them. Can you see them? Can you hear them? Can you remember that one thing they said that sticks into your mind? Do you hear their voice? For me, it's my maternal grandmother, a woman who stood barely 5 feet tall. And one day we were walking in the woods and I was acting out as teenagers will do and commented on her height. Quite a difference between myself and my grandmother. She lovingly but firmly grabbed my shirt and said, listen here, mister, you may be taller than me, but you'll never be bigger than your grandma. I hear it. I have a reaction to it still today. It's as if she was right here telling me that, and it happened nearly 50 years ago. So when I tell you the trees talked back to me as a child, the trees talked back. It wasn't some hum at 220 hertz, it was a voice, clear as anything, telling me things, conversing and talking with me. So what was it? Was it actually the trees? Was it the voice of the divine? Was it my ancestors speaking with me when I found that still quiet place? Was it my, as they said in school, my vivid imagination? Or, and this is where that story that Jane shared with us today really connects. As I grew older, and I feared this, was I just hearing voices? And was I crazy? Similar to the boy in the story, there was a time in my life where I was so frightened by the voice, I stopped listening. I did my best to drown out those conversations, and I did it with lots of distractions, television, music, in my case, alcohol. But no matter how hard I tried, they were always still there. Maybe not right up front, but they were there. And I never told anyone that I talked to trees. Until very recently. You see, over the last couple of years, I found the need to be talking to the trees again, and I went out on a limb, way out on a limb, unintended, and told my partner, Jill Brooks, that I talk to trees. You want to talk about something that could end a budding relationship really, really fast? Tell the person you're seeing that you're talk to trees. But rather than being brushed aside and ghosted, I was accepted. And the questions came enthusiastically flooding forth. What do they sound like? What do they say? Can I talk to trees? Why didn't you tell me? What are they saying? It was one of the most special things that ever happened to me. Now, I am far from an expert on trees. I can tell an oak from a maple, and those from the Midwest know that maple leaves will turn upside down just before it starts to rain. So that's when we knew it was about time to go inside, when the maple trees leaves would turn upside down. There's so much to learn about the woods, so much we can gain. So why then is it important that I tell you my secret today? Why? I tell you because I believe in my heart of hearts that we have got to start to listen. We have so much to learn from the trees. Trees can actually teach us how to care for each other. They have kept that stump alive in the German forest for over 100 years. They are the perfect example of that interconnected web that we as Unitarian Universalists espouse to. They communicate with and listen to each other and their needs and their wants. And they have developed a way to tell other species, I need you too. This book that I literally just finished this week, they talk about foresting in Canada and how the clear cutting, they would get rid of everything. But the trees, in order to regrow the forest, they needed the other plants there because they were feeding each other. They say, I cannot survive without you. They are telling us that today. Maybe the conversations I have with the trees are my way of conversing with the divine. Maybe they are my ancestors. Maybe it's just my vivid imagination. Maybe I'm a little crazy too. But here's what I know for sure. Here's what they have said to me. They are here for us. They relish our time together, those quiet times with their human brothers and sisters. Just being with them matters. We matter to them. And while they are not particularly happy about the fact that just today we've mowed down hundreds and hundreds of acres of their kin, they still welcome us. They still want us and desire us to be with them and be part of their community. So, homework. I encourage you to go into the trees and listen. You will hear their song accompanied by the birds singing in the trees, in the limbs. And you can see and hear the wind dancing in their branches and hear those crackles in the forest floor. And who knows, maybe even a hum at 220 hertz. So if you can, go sit on the ground and lean against a strong trunk. Or if you have a notion, climb on up and sit within its waiting arms. Take a minute and talk to the trees. They are listening. And don't be surprised if they start talking back. May it be so. Yeah.
Thank you, Randy.